Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude. And what we do here is college football videos every single day. And yes, I'm going to start pumping out some college basketball videos as well, especially when March Madness starts rolling around. That should be a lot of fun. And hey, if you enjoy what you see, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're trying to get through the off season to make it to the next college football season, hit the like and subscribe button. That's what I'm here for, to get you through the off season. Go check out my Patreon page as well. We have a much wider selection of what you can choose from. And don't forget about my PayPal contest. The person who has the highest PayPal donation by the end of this month wins a brand new 42-inch Roku Smart TV. Well, the investigation at Auburn has wrapped up, and Brian Harsin is still the coach at Auburn. And I guess he still gets to keep his side piece. So I don't know what kind of lesson you can teach your kids from that one. I guess no lesson. So basically, here's what happened. Brian Harsin went on vacation, thought everything was fine and dandy at Auburn. While he was on vacation, he found out otherwise. He found out that Auburn was actually investigating him, trying to figure out why there were so many players that left, why there was such a turnover in the coaching position. There wasn't just a turnover, there was a turnover of the turnover. Fired an offensive coordinator, the person he replaced, that person quit very quickly, and of course his defensive coordinator left for Oklahoma State. So basically they were investigating that. And remember, on my previous videos, I said there's three outcomes. Number one, they fire him with just cause, send him on his way, don't have to pay him a thing, but then a coach would have to kind of clean up the mess that was left. Option two, they could fire him without cause and give him the buyout, just like Gus Malzahn, so more money on top of money. But once again, a coach would have to come in and clean up the mess. Or option three, not fire Brian Harsin, but Brian Harsin would know in the back of his head that they did want to fire him. And it looks like option three happened. Brian Harsin is still the coach at Auburn, but he has to know, hey, they wanted you fired. They still might want you fired, but they couldn't find just cause. You're still at Auburn. Last year, Auburn went 6-7. They actually started off the season pretty well. They beat Akron 60-10, beat FCS Alabama State 62-0, went on the road to a tough place to play at Penn State, almost pulled out a win, but they lost 28-20. Came back home, beat Georgia State 34-24, went on a hostile road trip, and won. Yes, they beat LSU 24-19. That's actually a pretty good win, even on a down year for LSU. That's a tough place to win. And they came back home, got blasted by Georgia, just like everybody else did, 34-10. Went on the road to Arkansas, who was red hot at the time, and beat them 38-23. Came back home and beat Ole Miss. People forget about this. Auburn did beat Ole Miss last year, 31-20. But after that's where the wheels came off. That's where a lot of trouble started. They went on the road to Texas A&M, lost 20-3. They didn't just lose, they got humiliated. Came back home, lost to Mississippi State, who was struggling 43-34. Went back on the road, lost to a mediocre South Carolina, 21-17, but yours truly predicted that. I predicted South Carolina to upset Auburn. Then came back home and almost beat Alabama. They had that game controlled up until the very end of the fourth quarter, sent it to overtime. Alabama won, still lost 24-22 in overtime. Went to the Birmingham Bowl, competed against Houston. They competed, but they still lost 17-13. So they ended the season on a 5-game losing streak. Let's look at the schedule for this upcoming year. First, they get Mercer. Then they get San Jose State. They get Penn State at home. They get Missouri at home. They get LSU at home. That's 5 straight home games to start off the season. Auburn could be 5-0. After that, on the road to Georgia, on the road to Ole Miss. They get Arkansas at home, but then they have to go on the road to Mississippi State, Texas A&M at home, Western Kentucky at home, and then at Alabama. So Auburn could end up once again 6-6 or maybe 7-5. Slight improvement. So I'm trying to hear from my Auburn subscribers. What record would you be okay with for Auburn to go to be satisfied with the job that Brian Harsin has done? Now, in year one, they averaged 28.3 points per game. That's 68. That's not a good offense. Not good at all. But their defense was pretty decent. They allowed 21.8 points per game, 27th. Problem is, their defensive coordinator went over to Oklahoma State, and he's a heck of a defensive coordinator. That's big shoes to fill. And that was your go-to last year. Your defense was your strength. So you need to massively improve on offense. You at least need to stay on par on defense. Improvement would be fine, But if you stay on par, that's fine. It's the offense that you need to improve on. And this year, Auburn had the number 19 recruiting class. That's not bad. That's still top 20. But for Auburn, that's a little bit underachieving. Auburn usually recruits just a little bit better than that. Usually they're a top 15 class. I know that's splitting hairs. I'm just saying. And on top of that, I did a video on the teams that are in the top 25 as far as highest revenue producing football programs. And Auburn tied at number 10 with Florida, $117 million a year. So they should have top-notch facilities. I haven't taken a visit, but I'm guessing from those numbers, Auburn has top-notch facilities. But they do have to compete against Big Brother in the state of Alabama. And Nick Saban, that's a whole different ballgame over there. But I think Auburn has the capabilities to at least be consistently second place in the SEC West and dethrone Alabama every once in a while. I know Alabama will always out-recruit Auburn, and that's fine. But when you're gathering talent like that, you can also gather experience and have those magical years where your experience is better than their talent. It's doable. You can do it. But being sixth in the SEC West, yes, that's where Auburn finished last year. That's inexcusable at Auburn. And I get it. The SEC West is one of the toughest divisions, right up there with the Big Ten East. I get it. It's difficult. But you can't be at the bottom like that. So Auburn definitely needs to improve for Brian Harsin to feel safe and not be on the hot seat at Auburn. So my opinion would be this. For Auburn to be okay with Brian Harsin as the head coach, I would say Auburn needs to jump at least, at minimum, to fourth place in the SEC West. And as far as finishing their record, well, let me look at their schedule. Let's go through this real quick. Mercer, win. San Jose State, win. Penn State, but it's at home, win. Missouri, at home, win. LSU, rebuilding, new coach, Brian Kelly, at home, win. So yeah, I do think you need to go 5-0 to start the season. After that, on the road to Georgia, loss. On the road to Ole Miss, loss. Arkansas at home. I think you can grab a win there. So right now you're looking at 6-2. On the road to Mississippi State. It's tough to win there, and Mike Leach will be figuring out even more offense over there to throw at you. That's going to be a loss. So you're looking at 6-3 right now. What about the rest of the schedule? Texas A&M at home. That's a winnable game. It's at home. Texas A&M isn't a juggernaut like Alabama, but they had one of the greatest recruiting classes of all time. But I'm still saying you got to grab a win there. And then Western Kentucky win at Alabama, loss. So for me, you should go 8-4. You could run the table at home. I really think that. It is very, very doable. Toughest teams at home, maybe Arkansas and Texas A&M. Arkansas probably would have the experience, but Texas A&M would have the talent. But those are winnable games. So in my opinion, Auburn should go 8-4. Now later on, whenever the season gets closer, I'll do my actual season prediction for Auburn, which last year, I think I predicted them to go 7-5 or 6-6. I'll have to go back and look. Auburn fans laughed at me. You're crazy, Golden Blue, dude. Our offense is going to be one of the best in the nation, on our schedule isn't all that bad. Yeah, Auburn fans had them having a 10-win season. I said, there is no way. And that's not me trash talking. That's what I'm trying to get across to people. When I'm down on your team, it's not me trash talking or being a hater. If that was the case, I'd be the hater of everybody because I'm down on everybody at some point during the season or preseason. It happens. All I'm saying is Auburn is capable of going 8-4 with this schedule. So later on, whenever the season gets a little bit closer, I do my research, look at the recruiting class, look at who's staying and who left, all that stuff, and the schedule, factor it in. I will have you a full preseason prediction. And maybe you just might take me a little bit more serious this year. So I want to get everybody's feelings on what they think about this situation. Do you think Auburn did the right thing? Do you think Brian Harsin will actually end up having success at Auburn? Or do you think this is just destined to be a failure? Let me know in the comments section. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.